Hello War of the Visions fans, I'm Jackie Fox. Today let's talk about Sonille, because this is a character, 70 cost UR character, who is completely free. That's right, same acquisition as the previous generation of 50 cost MR units, but she's a UR unit, and she's a pretty powerful one, all things considered, especially for being a free unit. I do kind of worry that getting a unit like this for free could be an indication that there is some incoming accuracy. Now that everybody has evasion, something might have to be done about that in the near future. But just the lock effect. But I don't think that she's necessarily going to bring in the new age of evasion either. So let's talk about her and whether or not you should put the effort in to get her for free, because I think most people should. It's going to be a little bit harder for people who aren't playing Dark because of the way her acquisition quests for her shards go, but it's pretty easy, if not even trivial, to mine for her mind spheres. So looking at the equipment here, this is actually a pretty decent piece of equipment. Single target resistance, you usually don't see that on a sword. You usually don't see good TMR swords, but this one's pretty decent. I mean, you could do slightly better in the stats, but that's okay. But also decreases AP by 10% upon critical hit. And that's pretty interesting. Like, this is good enough to compete with a lot of other swords in the game. Maybe not necessarily the blood sword or things like that, but if you're running an all-slash team, you may need 3 swords, and this could fill in a slot for you in a way that allows you to equip a certain armor and accessory in a way that really works out well for you. For instance, you may want to be able to equip the Crow Cloak and something like the Winter Coat for maximum evasion. In that case, you would want a sword that allowed you to equip both of those pieces of evasive gear. Although I don't necessarily think that's the best way to go for her. In fact, I think there's some overlap in the evasion passive. So looking at Sonille, we're getting slash attack resistance penetration right off the bat, some critical rate, some slash evasion for self, which is interesting, and it's going to make her more evasive of the most common damage type in the game, so that's pretty cool. More single target resistance, assuming you're using her sword. For her stats though, I wanted to give us a point of comparison, and this is Halloween Lucio. Also a 70 cost unit, so very similar in a lot of ways. Let's just see if she is kind of a newer version of this type, if she kind of is in keeping with new line stats. And you can see here that she has considerably more HP. She's actually a little bit short on attack. She's a little bit short on AP as well, a little bit short on TP, interestingly enough. A little bit short on agility, actually. But she does have considerably more HP. I will say, she has a lot more HP than this guy does, which is interesting for an evade unit and kind of makes me think she's a little bit better. Let's see, luck. She has higher luck. She does have lower base evasion, though, as you can see. Accuracy, they both have 14 accuracy, in fact. Both have equal accuracy. She has a little bit more crit rate. That's from her master ability. And then, I mean, these are okay resistances, but they're not great. She does have resistance to disable, which is good because that could prevent her from evading. Sleep could also prevent her from evading, but sad this is only 10% because Toad is kind of useless. Then, moving on. Defense penetration, evasion rate, crit damage, agility and defense penetration, so these two are probably the key ones here. I'm not super excited for her in that all of her jobs essentially aren't that exciting for me. It is kind of interesting to see a new age duelist, because she's definitely more evasive than the previous duelists have been. She can decrease accuracy. See, there's a lot of like evasion support for duelists. They just never had the stats to really do it well. This looks like a really good skill. This is her no friendly fire. Okay, so it's gonna be all around her. Wow. Slash penetration 40 before dealing damage, crit chance plus 35%. decreases critical damage for enemies, decreases accuracies when performing a critical hit for enemies. With a pretty high crit chance on this is a pretty good likelihood of making her hard to dodge. It's kind of like putting blind on a skill, so that's pretty cool. A way to increase her evasion rate while reducing physical damage taking by quite a lot. So even if she does end up taking, this is 4 times, so if she has really good evasion, it could take a very long time to get rid of this barrier, because it could take a while for you to hit her 4 times. Single target resistance of 40. Given that she already has good base single target resistance, this should be pretty helpful. Also AoE resistance buff, so she can buff both of those kind of for herself. Restoring HP when performing a critical hit, so she could be restoring her own HP and then with her sword decreasing theirs at the same time. I find that kind of interesting. But decreased defense, reduce the larger attack size buff. That's really important to be able to remove from people. Also, including a little bit more power on this is pretty cool. It's interesting that the base modifier goes down, though. That's kind of strange for me. But it does increase the maximum damage a bit. Okay. Interesting way to go. Generally speaking, I like this more than I usually like Duelist. I like the skills that she had upgraded, but it is still kind of having to work with this older job. Like, she's not going to stand up to a lot of these signature units that just have huge walls of text. Dual Gunner is okay with his Axe Knight. She has the ability to sleep people. That's pretty cool. It could be also an anti-evasion thing for herself. This is interesting against the right team. You really, I think it's going to be like, is this going to line up for you? If it does, that could be really helpful. No LB also, so she's like our previous, because this isn't the first time that we've gotten a free UR unit. And they've never had LBs when we got them this way. This would be the first one that we can actually grind all the stuff. So this is a free to build unit as opposed to a free to pull unit. So I think that's really cool for her, and I think that she's going to be really quite powerful and quite interesting. Definitely a good curveball to throw onto dark teams. Also, she is a warrior, so she could be particularly good with like Bradley and Ashen Mont as well on a full warrior team. You could make a full warrior VTC team with her. Really, they've just been waiting for one more good warrior to go. Also, Cypher, if you've built Cypher, she could be a really good combination with that. Dark Slash goes deep and has for a long time, so it shouldn't be too hard to find another Dark Slash character for that team. Maybe old Sephiroth could work. Many other things. But I think there's a lot of people who are going to find this unit exciting and interesting and, dare I say, even powerful. A few tips for the Sonille acquisition quest. First of all, you want to build your units without armor, but with accessories that are going to boost their damage. Often these are raid rewards. You'll see I'm using a lot of Swordledge, but also the Genji Glove. And that also all of my physical units are going to have some form of AP auto restore, or some way of restoring AP, either in their kit or most likely through their TMR. Other than that, I'm doing things that will boost people's speed, like Vitalize effects, haste effects, anything that will get CT a little bit faster so that we can outspeed the pot. So as you start this, you're going to notice that Dark Attack is being boosted pretty heavily, but also that every 10 of your turns, it's going to alternate from units having a lot of unit attack resistance to having a lot of AoE resistance. This is going to start with them having a lot of AoE resistance, and this is a really good time to buff because you're not going to be able to take as many people out. You also, because AP management can be so important here, want to be using anything that can reduce your AP costs as well as AP auto restore. That way you'll be able to make it through the fight without any dead turns, and you really want these dead turns to come when the AoE resist is high. The second piece of advice that I would like to give you is to build a sort of V shape on the field. And to push this as close to the throne steps as you can, because you want diamond AoEs to be able to hit that whole area. And especially later in the fight, and getting to this point in the fight can really be what pushes you towards the higher score. But there's going to become a point where there's 5 enemies spawning in at once. And when this happens, you want it to be the AoE time. And you want to be laying down every diamond AoE in your kit. So you want to have your AP conserved for this. And it might, in some cases, even behoove you to use basic attacks during the unit attack phase, because they're going to do pretty decent damage, but also they're going to restore your AP, but also they're not going to waste the AP or skill casts that you're going to need for these AoE skills to be able to get 5 kills after 5 kills after 5 kills, because they'll pretty much refresh as soon as you take them down. This means that within 3 to 4 of your turns, you could score 20 KOs. And this is all well within 1 turn of the pot. Getting to this point can be really difficult, though, and getting through this point efficiently can also be difficult, because you've got to get there with the right resources to really be able to capitalize on it. That being said, it's going to be a little tricky for people who don't have Dark, but if you do have Dark, I really recommend give it a couple shots, use this strategy, and work out what order you need to be doing things in for your team. And that should see you through this. So, good luck, everybody. Ultimately, I think she's, for a number of reasons, a little bit behind on Halloween Lucio. I know I compared them favorably in a previous video, but looking at the stats myself, I can say that she is lacking a fair amount of potential. Like that 3 agility and 15 evasion in her base stats work out to be a pretty big deal, even if her luck is a bit higher. Now, that luck does help her, and hopefully, like, having the physical shield and having the ability, just having, like, a good baseline 20%, 25% more HP is pretty nice as well. But at the same time, Halloween Lucio could recover his own HP, and I think that was a pretty strong, maybe even stronger mechanic for a unit that even accurate units can only hit reliably about half the time. I think that's even more powerful for him. Maybe it plays a little bit more into current meta in a way, and in a strange sort of way, she may even replace Halloween Lucio on those Dark Evasion teams if the teams have the right Warrior Vision cards, because that might actually be the stronger combination of those. She may also replace, I'll try running my team without my Renoa and run Sonille instead. I think that could be exciting too, because they have a good number of Warrior Vision cards for that team, I believe. So there's a number of ways that this character could go. It may take a little bit of effort to actually unlock her. A couple of things you want to pay attention to when you're doing the shard acquisition quests are playing in manual, because content like this that has kind of a time limit in terms of like how long you have to finish the stage, how many moves you have to finish the stage specifically, those are ones that you definitely want to be playing in manual. That being said, you don't have to go all the way for this one to get all the shards you need. There will be some additional things like prestige rewards for getting all the way up to the top, and no matter how good you do at farming her mind spheres, if you can't get the shards to get her up to 99, her mind spheres mean nothing to you. Unless you throw her in the barracks, and that's always a painful waste of resources when it's a free unit that you could have done by trying just a little bit harder. So definitely a character that I want, definitely a character that I will be finding uses for sure. Definitely a character that I think a lot of people will find uses for, and even though I don't think that she is as strong of an evasive unit, or as strong as a unit in general, as someone like Halloween Lucio and some of the other 70 cost competition, or maybe even it could very well, I would not be surprised if the light version of Lilith coming out in 1 month that was just announced in JP as a gacha 70 cost unit, I wouldn't be surprised if that is a much stronger unit than this in a lot of ways as well. There are definitely some ways that this character feels quite held back, but it's not necessarily the evasion. And if a character can do one thing only well and still be relatively safe and powerful within the wotv meta, Evasion can be that niche where you can really excel, and I think she's really going to excel in that niche. Maybe not as a top contender, but strong enough to hoodwink a lot of teams that currently exist in the meta, and maybe the only way to win some fights that you had no chance of winning otherwise. All of that coming in a free unit I think is pretty cool, so if you appreciate me giving you the heads up, please like and subscribe. That's a free to play option for YouTube, but if you want to do a little bit more, you can check out the link in the description. There's going to be links to my other YouTube channels, to my Spotify channel, to my books, to places that you can donate to the channel as well. You could also just leave a comment. There's a lot of open questions that I've asked during this. I want to know who's really got plans for Sonille, and maybe even if you're a JP player or know a little bit more about the quest that unlocks her on the JP side, if you want to give some details in the comments, that could be fun as well. If you have details on that, I'd be happy to hear them in the comments. But more importantly, maybe for some of you, once this character is out, if you're having trouble with those quests, you want some advice or want to see how I went through it or what kind of strategy I was using, hit me up, let me know in the comments, and I might make that video for you as well. But for right now, I assume that you have all the information you need to successfully unlock this character and start using her on some really cool teams. But, and this is a little awkward because I've already done my segue out, let's actually look at her on wotv stats. I didn't do the full preparation that I usually do for characters for this, looking at her best teams, but what we're going to do, what you and I are going to do, we are going to look through her teams in her latest day of performance and see what's good. Okay, so not seeing the most usage really. Let's see. Cypher, Mont, and Sonille. Looks like the most popular team. 3.7 on offense isn't great. 1.8 on defense is pretty good though. Team's performing pretty well on defense. It looks like Cypher, Luciel, and Sonille is really powerful on defense. Also, yeah, like all of these. Wow. I don't think I've ever seen that many 2s on the front page, like at one time. The offense numbers aren't great. Here's a team getting 4. This is an all-dark team with Roth and Cypher. So we got Sephiroth in that 3rd slot there. Ooh, best one we've seen so far, bringing in healer with Lemure. So like actually two free units here. 3 UR units, 1 LB between them. Is another way of looking at that. But that healing, because she doesn't have any way of healing herself. Again, she's not like Vampire Lucio. She can't just life drain in the same way that he can. It looks like June works alright on this team. Fina, yeah, adding a healer. She definitely feels like, from looking at this, that a healer and or a tank is helpful for her. But it also looks like this is a character that's really going to be the big deal on defense. Let's keep looking. Here's a 1.8, another 1.8, 2 1.8s. Oh, this one did really well on offense, but I guess it's only pretty good on defense. Here's another one. That's Shalza. So that's a fire off. You don't even need Luciel, you could use Shalza. Actually, here's one with... Oh, that one did not do so good. That one probably ran up against some guaranteed hit and got slapped down. Here's another 2.0 with Summer Resnick and the Dark Squad. So it looks like the team with Mont is actually really limited in a lot of ways, but the team up opportunities, especially with Cypher, are a pretty big deal. This could be an interesting team. Ashen Luncestus Catone. Here's another 2. Ayaka? Really, almost any healer will do, y'all. But yeah, I actually also don't think I've seen a character that looked this much geared towards defense. Like, catching people off guard with evasion is what this character is about from the looks of it, because that's really where she's winning on defense. People who are unprepared to deal with her are just losing to her. And then once she's revealed, maybe she's being beat more consistently, but sometimes even then, people are having trouble beating her, with her getting 2.2 stars on 2 different teams. Like, this is just really good data from the defensive side, indicating that she's going to be a very powerful curveball on defense, but on offense, no. No, I didn't even see data this bad when I was looking at the Veritas. Like, even Veritas of the Earth was probably doing better than this. And people don't even have him 140 yet. So, with all that being said, thank you so much for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, check out the link in the description, leave a comment, and with all that being said, thank you so much for watching. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.